So we took a look at how we can use jQuery to do native raw manipulation of the DOM, right? And how Angular uses jQuery, a lighter version of jQuery, to manipulate the DOM to create this abstraction, right, through the use of directives. So we like to learn how to create directives ourselves. So let's spend some time playing around with directives. Right. So let's go here in lectures and let's create a directory. Create a directory here called directive for Wednesday. And let's create a very simple Angular application that uses directives. Right? Let's create a very trivial hello world directive. Right? So let's say hello.html. Right? And it needs to be an Angular application. So let's create an Angular application. We'll need to load the Angular library. So let's see script. We'll say that the source is go up one, twice, JavaScript, and let's go down to Angular. There it is, Angular. Okay, there we go. So we got the Angular application, and let's also load Bootstrap, although we don't need it, but it makes everything look much more prettier. CSS and Bootstrap. There it is. And this is a style sheet. Okay? All right, so in here we're going to say h1 hello world. Okay? So let's navigate there. Let's see, say the localhost and say that we are in lectures and we are in directives and the Wednesday folks, Wednesday, hello. That's not right. Let's see, did I spell it wrong? Public lectures directive. Oh, directives. There we go. All right, so we're in there. Okay. Let's maybe put here a container, div. And let's put it here class, container fluid. There we go. All right. So what directives allow you to do is in Angular is to map HTML content, right, to JavaScript logical code, right? So that you can either create your own HTML tags, create your own HTML attributes, create your own HTML classes, right, to trigger JavaScript logic on the behind the browser to implement to execute JavaScript code in the background, right? And this JavaScript code can then manipulate the raw DOM content, right? So for instance, let's create a very simple element, right? We'll call it the hello element. Okay. I think we can all agree that this is not a HTML element, right? There is no such thing as a hello HTML element, right? So let's create a brand new one. So to do that, let's define an ng app, and we'll call it directive sample app, right? Directive sample app. Okay, and we're going to declare it, implement it inside of script, and the source is going to be equal to an app.js. Okay, and that app.js we're going to declare it right here. Actually, let's put it also in hello.js. Right, so let's create here new JavaScript and hello.js. Right. So in here, let's create the Angular application. This will be inside of an iffy, right? And in here, we're going to take the Angular object, and we're going to declare a module, top-level module called the same way. So directives sample app, and for now, it's not going to have any dependencies. All right. So there we go. So we have the simplest of Angular applications, so simple that it doesn't really do anything. Right. So let's create a directive, our very first directive, our hello directive. Right. We can declare right here, or it could be declared in a separate file. But let's declare it right here. So directive. Right. We declare directives using the directive decorator. Right. Directive function. Right. That allows us to decorate, right, things on the HTML page, right? In this case, it's decorating the hello tag right here, right? Now, what happens here is that whenever allows us to declare a function that gets now associated to the hello tag, right? Whenever Angular finds this a tag like this, like hello, and it says, "Ooh, I saw that somewhere. I saw it declare as a directive, right? And I'm going to execute whatever code is in this function, right? Okay. Again, I don't like anonymous functions, so I'm going to move this out of here and actually do an hello function. So this would be function hello. This name and this name doesn't matter, right? They don't have to match. Actually, let's call this dir, hello dir. There it is. Okay. This name and this name need to match, right? Those two need to match, right? So let's see. So here we can say alert hello world. Right? So if I run this, indeed that function is executing. Right, that tag caused that hello to work. Just to make sure that indeed I didn't if I declare something like this, notice that function doesn't execute. Right, there's no mapping. Right, it has to match exactly hello. Everybody okay? All right. Notice that it's complaining that I don't have anything to show for this hello tag. You know, you didn't tell me what to put inside of this hello tag, right? You need to tell me somehow what to render inside of that hello. Otherwise, it'll just be an empty element, right? So the way we do that to tell it what to render is to return an object. Return a JSON object that has a specific schema, right? So it's not just any object. It's an object that has a specific structure, right? It has to have certain attributes. This object needs to have certain attributes. One of them is the template attribute, right? The template attribute is the easiest way to say, hey, this is the content I want, right? So for instance, we could just tell it that I want an H2, hello again. Okay? Right, so if I render, notice that it says hello again, right? We are passing, it says this is the template HTML that I want you to use, right? It can be either right here as a string. If it's a very simple, tiny little thing, all right? It could be just this little string like we're doing right here, right? If it's something fairly complex, right, that has tables and rows and images and it's iterating over something fairly complex, right? Instead, you can use right, you can use templates URL. Template URL allows you to refer to a file, right, that contains the content, right? So for instance, we could say hello template.html, okay? And so in that file, right, we can then say, hello template. Did I spell it right? Template, yes. Right, in here, we can say H2, hello template, right, paragraph contains lots of content, right? So if we refresh, notice that indeed it's using that template now. See that? instead of that small snippet of HTML, you can now have at it. You have a whole HTML page that you can put in stuff in here. Make sense? All right. Very good. Everybody okay? Yes. Yes, yep. You can treat it just like any other tag. So in hello, you can style it and refer to it, right? You can say that hello, right, has the color red. Right, it's red. Notice that the browser is complaining because it says I have no idea what that is, right? It only makes sense within the Angular context, right? There is no such tag called hello, right? So this is the IDE complaining, right? Not the browser, right? The browser will find the elements by element name, right? And it will render it. Okay. And even in here, right? If you have this paragraph right here, and you have class equal green, right? You can go and even further. You can say green, and you can say background color green, and foreground color white. Right. So you can style it even inside of the HTML page. Make sense? Everybody still with me? All right. All right. So now instead of a URL, you can also use the template, right? You can use the template, but provide a function. Inside of that function, you could return the string. You could say return and then the string. Right, so it will render whatever the string that function returns. Right, so there it is. So it's hello again. Right, so it's just this hello. What this allows you to do though is to calculate that string. Right, so it could be a calculated string. Perhaps you could start with HTML. Start off with maybe something like a table. Right, and then you can then iterate over an array of movies, right? That has Terminator and Avatar, and then create all the URLs that you need, right? So for instance, you can say I'm going to calculate a TR, and the TR is equal to the TR. Right, concatenated with, actually iterate over this, right? You're going to for var m in movies, right? And as I iterate, I'm going to create a tr, which contains tr and it's followed by td, right? td, followed by the content of the movie, so movies sub m, right? And then I'm going to close the TD, right, and close the TR, right? And then I'm going to append to the HTML. So I'm going to say HTML append the TR, right? And at the end, HTML, I'm going to append table, right? And I'm going to return the HTML that I just calculated, okay, HTML. There it is. So it's a table, right? That contain, and you could check it out, right? Indeed, it's a table. Hopefully, you say body div container fluid. There's hello, and notice that it has a table. See that? It's a table, right? With a table body. It even adds correct tags that I didn't put in there, right? Table rows, Terminator, and Avatar. Make sense? Right?
That wasn't Angular, right? That was
the browser. Yes. But you would never actually do this, right? This is very, very error prone, very easy to make a mistake, right? At least you would do this in jQuery, at least, right? But nevertheless, right, you can calculate the string that you want to generate. So A much better solution for this, right? I'm going to comment that out, and I'll leave it there for your reference. A better way to do this, right, is to call a link function. A link function is going to allow you to manipulate the content of that hello tag, right, programmatically using jQuery. So a little higher than just plain old strings, right? So let's call these the link function, right? So the link function, right, is going to call your function. So here's your function. Here's your function, the link function, right? And in here, what this is going to do is that it's the Angular is first going to grab that hello with jQuery, and then it's going to pass it to you as an object, as a jQuery object that you can then manipulate using jQuery. All right, so let's do that. First of all, one of the things that it passes you is the scope. Right? We don't have a scope right now, but this scope is just like the $ scope for the controller. Right? If there were a controller, there isn't right now, right? If there were a controller and that controller is providing data, we could see that data from this scope, right? So this allows us to talk to anybody that's out there, right? I am an HTML element, right? I am an HTML element. Where am I? In here, right? And presumably I'm inside of an Angular application, presumably inside of a page or an HTML page that presumably has a controller associated with it, right? So any data that the controller would provide, I would be able to see it from that scope, right? We don't have that just yet. So, but that indeed is the very first argument that gets passed to us, right? The second argument is the element itself. Right, we're going to be passed this hello tag as a jQuery object, which we can then manipulate. All right, so let's take a look at that. Let's take a look at that. We can grab that element, right? We can grab that element and do something similar like we did earlier, right? But with jQuery. Right, let's create a table, right? With jQuery. Right, we're going to say colon table, right? And once we have that table, we can iterate over the movies. Okay, so we have the movies, and we're going to iterate over var m in movies, and the same thing, right? We're going to create. Actually, to make it easier, I'm just going to use a UL instead. It's shorter. We're going to create a new line item, right? Using $, colon, li, right? And I'm going to append, right? It's a little more object-oriented, yes? We're going to append movies sub m, right? And I'm going to append li, append to ul. And at the very end, we're going to say ul.append to body. I don't have body here, right? But I can just provide the CSS for it, right? It'll fetch the body, right? It'll create a jQuery object out of it, and then I'll append to it, right? So that didn't work, right? Console. $ is not defined. Oh, I don't believe we ever loaded jQuery. It's because it's using the light version of jQuery, right? It obviously has jQuery, but it doesn't have our full-blown jQuery. So let's load that, and let's make sure to load it before we load the Angular library, right? So let's load script, source, go up one, twice, JavaScript. I think I put it under vendor, jQuery, there it is. So let's try it again. And there it is, Terminator and Avatar. Everybody good? Okay. And there we go. So we can use jQuery inside of a directive. But even here, you wouldn't do this, right? Even like this, you would not do it, because I mean, in the hello template that we have here, we have all those abstractions that Angular gives us, right? We are inside the Angular framework, nevertheless, right? It'd be great if we could do something like UL, right? And have li here and do something like ng repeat, movie in movies, right? Something like that, right? And put here movie, right? That would be the ideal thing to do, right? Movie, maybe movie.title, where movies is some array, right? But we don't. For this, we need somebody to provide data for us, right? Meaning we live in some context, right? There's some controller that fetched these movies from somewhere, right? And it's providing it in the context over here, right? We don't have that, so notice how nicer this is, right, as a syntax than this is, right? So let's leave this for now like that. All right, let's leave that. And so what we'd like to be able to do is to go back to our template URL. I want to use that template URL, right? But I don't have the data. Right? I don't have the data to provide here for the movies and whatnot, right? I don't have that. So to do that, let's put this hello world, hello HTML inside of a controller that can provide the data to this over here, right? So let's say that the controller for this, right? The controller for this div is a say movie controller, say, okay? And that movie controller, that means that I need to declare that movie controller in my hello.js, right? We had declared the directive. Let's declare the controller. There it is. So dot controller. And what did I call it? It has to be called exactly the same name. There it is, movie controller, implemented in a function of the same name. All right, so we have function. There it is, movie controller, and we have our scope. Right? Here's our scope, and we can provide the data, input it in the scope. Right? We can say scope dot movies. Right? Is an array of movies of which we can have a title, avatar. We can have title Titanic, okay, and title Alien Covenant. Actually, that's not James Cameron. That's coming later on this year. So we have that. So we have the movies. And notice that it's being so it should be available anywhere inside here, right? Just by name, we should be able to say just movies, right? And it didn't work. Wait, what happened here? Did I load that? The name module blah 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 is not you either misspelled. I must have misspelled something. Movie controller, ng controller, movie controller, class, container. Did I spell it right? Movie controller, yeah, spell right. Scope. Let's see. No, the order doesn't matter, does it? No. What's it saying? Have no dependencies. Control failed, and then MongoDB is not available. You misspelled it? No, what do you mean? What's this saying? Directive sample, blah, blah, blah. Key. Movies, movie controller. What do you can? Oh, hello.js, unexpected identifier. Ooh. What did I do here? Did I misspell something here? Link function, template. Ooh, I've got a comma here. Jeez, okay. Oh, there we go. All right, notice, right? Notice that there they are. Avatar, Titanic, Aliens, Covenant, right? We got it right the very first time, right? So what happens here is that we loaded the HTML, right? And the template, these movies, right? It's grabbing that from the scope, right? That was that was created by the controller, right? The controller added that to the scope. So anybody inside here, right, has access to the parent, right? Anything that the parent declares, right, is visible from the inside, right? And obviously the nice things about this is that you can easily change the layout, right? That's the beauty of creating these abstractions, right? The controller has no idea how this is going to be rendered, right? And it's certainly doing it this way using JavaScript is very error prone, right? What if I want to change it to a table, right? I need to change all these concatenations, all these pluses, and right? It's just a mess, right? Anytime you're trying to generate a language with another language, it's just a mess, right? The best thing is to generate that language in that language, right? So that this template, this is, I am generating HTML within HTML, right? I'm never leaving HTML. I'm staying in the HTML using all these abstractions, right, that hide a lot of the magic behind the scenes, okay? Right? So yeah, so definitely. So if I ever want to change the way this is rendered, right? I don't need to go in JavaScript and change the code. The code stays the same, right? The logic stays the same. I can just go in here and say that this is table row, right? And that these guys are inside of table data, right? And they're just tables, right? And I can style it, class table. Okay, there it is. So what's the point of being able to have jQuery inside of directive after all, right? Why did we even bother showing you this example that we had access to jQuery, but we never got to use it, right? There's no point in it. I'm trying to convince you not to use jQuery. No, actually, you can't do everything in Angular. Angular doesn't have all the behaviors, right, available here through these magical directives, right? So what we'd like to be able to do is to extend this, right? So for instance, we would like to be able to grab that table, right? That we grabbed it here and say that, hey, let me grab that table there, right? And I want to make it sortable, right? I want to make it sortable. We can't do that with Angular, right? We can't do that with Angular. So we have to go back to, something more low level that will allow us to do that. Sortable. Oh, okay. We need the jQuery UI library, right? Let's load the jQuery UI library. Let's see. It's I believe it's in the same location. Script source up twice. JavaScript vendor. Vendor, and then jQuery UI. There it is. Right. So if we reload, okay, no complaints, and I can. Oops. I don't think that's what we meant to do. Oh, I know what's happening. So if we look in here, right, that's our table. It's adding this annoying but correct T-body element in between there, right? So that's what we want to be sortable, not the table itself, but the T-body we want to be sortable, right? So let's go back to our implementation. It says not the table, dummy. We want to go down one further T-body. All right, so let's do that again. And now we can sort the rows, which might need some additional styling, right? And we want to sort it only in the axes Y. Right, there it is, right?
So you style it while you were
Yes, yep. It adds, as you're dragging it, jQuery adds additional styles, right? And also it's firing off a whole bunch of event handlers, right? It says, hey, I'm starting to drag. I am in the process of dragging. Dragging has stopped, right? And and you could be notified. So, for instance, if you go to the jQuery UI library, sortable has all sorts of events, right? So you can say when it starts, right, as it's sorting, and when it stops, right? And the way you can be notified is that you can configure event handlers over here. You can say start. So a function, we can say, for instance, console log sorting has begun, right? And you can be notified when it stops. You can say function and then console log, and then sorting has stopped, right? So that if I go here and I start sorting and look at the console, as I drag, it says console has begun, right? And when I drop it, let it go has stopped, right? Now these kinds of functions, you can use them to receive information about the event. When did it begin? When did it stop, right? So for instance, one of the things that it sends you is the raw JavaScript event, right? Where was the mouse when you started clicking, right? What was the event that triggered this, right? What was the actual element that you clicked on, right? What was the timestamp? This is the raw JavaScript event that was generated when this began, right? And then it gives you a meta object, right? A UI object, which is a jQuery object that has meta information about jQuery stuff, right? That might be interesting for you, right? So all these provide, and those are well documented here. If you go to start, right, it says that it passes two things. The event, that's the raw JavaScript event, plus UI, it tells you when it drags the element, one of the things that you configure is that leave the original element there and drag something else, right? Drag maybe a little box, right, or some image, right, representing. Say you're dragging a whole bunch of things that you selected and you're dragging them around. You might want to show a little, image, right, that gives feedback to the user that you are dragging all these things together, right? So you could create a helper HTML, right, to represent all these things, right? The actual position, offset from the parent, things like that, right? So one of the things that you might need in your for your assignments is let's print out the UI, okay? And both of them return the same thing. So let's pass this around and let's console log the UI object. So let's start off and let's start dragging this around again, right? So if I start, notice that it shows the object, right? That's the object. And I let it go, and then it shows the object, right? So if you click on here, it tells you the actual item, right? If I hover over it, right, the item represents the actual item that was being dragged, okay? You could use that to be able to, for instance, find out where was it when I started dragging, what position was it when I started dragging, and what position is it now that I dropped it, I let it go, right? Because for the assignment, remember, you need to, when you're moving things around, obviously they're going to move around in the UI, yes? But you need to save that somewhere, right? You need to tell the server, hey server, they moved this around. You need to remember this, right? You need to update in the database that now the widgets have been moved around, right? So we need to figure out the starting position and the ending position, right? So how can we do that? So what we could do is for instance, grab the item, so item, okay, so that's the item that is being dragged around. Okay, and if I start and I let it go, it says that was the table row that was being dragged, right? That is the table row that was being dragged. It's the same table row that ended up dragging, right? But it allows us to ask, hey row, where are you with respect to your siblings, right? What's your position with respect, if you look at your parent, where would your parents say that you are currently, right? So for that, there is an index function, right? There's an index function that tells you what is your position based on measure from a common parent, okay? So we could do this, right? If I click on it, it says 0. See that? And I'll let it go over here. If we do the same thing over here, and do this again, notice that says 0, and when I let it go, it says 2. See that? So we can find out what are these initial and starting positions. We can store them somewhere, maybe in some variable here, var start index, right, and initialize them to -1, and var end index, right, -1. And we can just store them somewhere, right? And we say start index is equal to this index over here, and store the end index equal to this over here, right? And then console log both of them, right? Start index and the end index, right? So if we start this, right, and we start dragging and let it go, notice that becomes 0, 2. Yes. It's a practice of knowing that it's an invalid value, so that if something goes wrong, if it's still -1, you know that you initialize to something that you know it's wrong, right? To validate something that you know it's incorrect, right? So -1 would be it's a flag telling us that something went wrong. Okay, everybody make sense, right? The assignment goes on saying that you take these two indices, right, and you send them over to a server, right? And that you do some manipulation. Yes?
To send it to server, do you do it for every event, like every change, or put it together and send it once?
Well, you can decide, right? What you could decide is that there's two ways, right? You let it go and you notify the server for every time you move something. That is the more appropriate way, right? Or you do all the changes, right? And when you click OK, then you figure out all the new positions, right? And then you send out the new all the new positions for the widget. That is less okay. What if you navigate away and you didn't save the state, right? You want to make sure that you always have the latest stored on the server. The server or the database is the collection of truth, right? Whatever the database says, that is what is the current state of the application, right? So yeah, it should be at the end of the stop. You should notify the server. Everybody okay? All right. So there is yet a good reason why to use jQuery inside of Angular, right? If there's something that Angular you can't do because there is no directive or there's no abstraction for it, you can create your own abstraction. Make sense? All right. All right, let's stop here. I want to look at some other more basic uses for directives.